Hey, before we get started, I just want to make sure everybody's feeling okay. Would you check out your neighbor and just make sure they're feeling all right? Because there's just a terrible disease going around. Would you check each other out? Is that okay? No, it's not the flu. Don't worry. We're all okay. Everybody good? Good. I just need to tell you about this, and I want to find out if you happen to be infected with this disease. So let me just ask you, and I'm going to take an assessment, a couple of questions, okay? So by raise of hands, here's question number 1. Who in here feels like you are the best looking person in the room? Would you raise your hand, please? Oh, there's always one, right? Okay, well, here's the second question. How many of you feel like you might be the least good looking person in the room? Okay, so wait a minute, you're probably conflicted right now, right? You're thinking, well, if I tell her I think I'm the best looking, then she's going to think I'm conceited. Or if I tell her I don't think I'm good looking, then she might think I have a self-esteem problem. Well, it was kind of a trick question, you can imagine. Because either way, you would have answered that, or even if you cared what I thought about it, you might be suffering from this disease. It's something that I call Comparisonitis. And it really is that feeling of not being good enough. I believe that it's difficult in this day and age to not suffer from this. And it comes in a few different strains, 3 to be exact. So strain A is if you look at other people and you see them as stronger, faster, smarter than you are, then that leaves you feeling inferior. The second strain is strain B. That's if you look at other people that you may perceive to be less good-looking, successful, or smart than you are, and then you feel superior. And the third strain is strain AB. That is a toxic combination of both of these that leaves you vacillating back and forth with how you feel about yourself based on how other people are doing in life. Well, I want to illustrate this with an example in real life. We'll call this example patient A. So patient A grew up in an average household. Family loved her. Actually, her sister was about 4 years older, so she wasn't in her shadow. But the issue came when she felt like she had this unquenchable desire and drive to prove herself. Now, it often showed up in a competitive kind of way. You know what I mean? In the classroom or on the softball field or out on the marching band field. It didn't matter. There was this almost a hidden hierarchy that she found herself putting she and others on, often falling short of it. Now, she was a high achiever, and what she would do was actually look at other people who were achieving what she perceived as more, and then she would use their example as a way to propel her forward. The problem was she often paid a really high price, both emotionally and relationally because of that. And making sure that she was always looking for others to find her motivation. Now, you may be thinking, but wait. Isn't that what motivation's all about? I mean, shouldn't we look at other or for other people to emulate? Well, the answer is yes and no. Kind of depends on the reason we're doing it. If we look at other people and what they're achieving, and we aspire or admire them, and we use that maybe as a role model, but that motivation is based in confidence or self-esteem, then that can be very healthy. It can help you to stand in your confidence. It keeps comparisonitis at bay. However, if the reason you're following in someone else's footsteps is because you really desire to be just like them, or if that's rooted in a lack of self-esteem or self-confidence, it can cause lasting issues, and comparisonitis can really rear its ugly head. In fact, it can even show up physically, where there's a restless feeling, an anxiety, even a pit in the stomach. It can actually flat rob us of the joy I believe we were put on this earth to have. Well, I guess you probably already figured out I'm patient A. I'm here because I am a comparisonitis survivor. And you can be too. And so I want to share with you a few ways to do that. I want to share with you some of the symptoms, and I want to share with you some of the ways to cure this thing once and for all. So let's start out with the symptoms. One of the first things that happens when people are suffering from comparisonitis is they begin to search for faults in others. You know what I'm talking about, nitpicky, hypercritical, but it really gets bad when they point that judgment at themselves. You know what I mean? We say things to ourselves we would never say to anybody else. But when we let that sort of negative self-talk go on too long, it sinks in. It can cause real problems with who we think we are. Depression, anxiety can all be started because comparisonitis is left to fester too long. There's an author that I love. Her name is Tara Moore. And she wrote a great book called Playing Big. And she talks about the fact that you and I have two voices in our head. Some of you have more than just two, but just two voices. And this one voice is called the inner critic. That's that voice I was just talking about. You know the one that's telling you all the reasons why it's not a good idea to try or you're not good enough. You know that voice? But the best part is, she said there's a second voice. And that voice is our inner mentor. That voice is you and I 20 years from now. And that voice is filled with wisdom and perspective. That voice is looking at us going, oh, relax, you've got this, you're going to be fine. But can I ask you, as pleasant as this voice is to listen to, which one do we listen to more? We listen to that inner critic. It causes that inward feeling of fault. That's one of the big symptoms. Another one is that people with comparisonitis tend to seek attention for themselves, often in really unhealthy ways. You know what I'm talking about, where people feel maybe they've bought into the notion that there's only two ways to elevate. You have to brag about yourself, or you have to cut other people down. That, I really believe, is part of the motivation behind bullies today, where somehow they've bought into the fact that maybe at least bad attention is better than no attention at all. The third symptom is that it can damage relationships. So let me tell you how it works. Okay, I want everybody to picture their best friend. But imagine that best friend, you know, the one that you've known for years, you love them, you trust them, you've got a great relationship. Has everybody got that person in mind? Okay, so imagine here they are. Now, one day, out of the blue, fortune smiles on your friend. They get a scholarship, they get engaged, they win the lottery. And yeah, but you don't. And so then what happens to the relationship between you? Oftentimes, at best, it's awkward, you know, a little weird, stiff, you know what I'm talking about? And even worse, sometimes it can cause a real rift in that relationship. I have to tell you, I saw this actually happen in the workplace. I was on a sales team, and we used to have monthly sales meetings where we'd get together and we'd share all the, you know, the good stuff that's happened during the month. So there were these veterans that had done well, but right now they were kind of in a slump. And then we had some new folks. So what happened at this particular meeting was all of the accolades and the milestones were being reached, so we were celebrating with these new folks. And I literally heard, kind of overheard off to the side here, like a snicker. You know what I mean? Like a scoff when we were celebrating with these other two. And truly, I was embarrassed. I was mortified, really. And afterwards, I went up to one of the veterans and I said, what's going on? What was that all about? And she literally said to me, you know, I don't think I'm going to keep coming to these meetings. She said, it was okay when I was getting some recognition, but I don't like hearing about all that stuff. Like, that's comparisonitis at its worst. It can damage those kinds of relationships. Now, you may be wondering at this point, don't people grow out of this? I mean, what about maturity, right? Well, I wish that was always the case. Actually, John Maxwell, he shares this great quote I love. He says, age and maturity and wisdom are supposed to come together, but sometimes age just, comes alone. I know plenty of people who should know better who still struggle with this disease. They were folks who lost their overpriced homes in over-mortgaged homes and overpriced neighborhoods years ago because they were so desperate to keep up with the Joneses. Now here's the best news. There is a cure for this, and I want to share with you 3 cures that if we do these, maybe we can keep this at bay at all, especially to keep it from becoming an epidemic. So let me share these 3 protocols that you can put into action right away. Number 1, focus on what you have, not what you don't have. I know that sounds really easy, right? I do believe in the premise that whatever you focus on expands. So if I want more good stuff, I'm going to focus on what I have so I get more of that. But that's easier said than done, right? So it's sort of like a muscle you have to exercise. In order to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, you got to practice. So let me give you one quick tip. You might have heard this before. Take a little notepad and put it by your bedside. Then every night before you go to sleep, write down everything that you're grateful for from that day. Now I get it. Sometimes it's like, I got up this morning. Okay, that's all right. Write it down. It's okay. Whatever it is that you're happy and grateful for, because just imagine how well you're going to sleep when you download all those wonderful things you have to be grateful for right before you go to bed. It's a beautiful thing for you to focus on. And truly remember that somebody else's success is not your failure. There is plenty of awesome to go around. It's truly in abundance. Now that's easier said than done too when we see all this stuff on Facebook or social media and we see all the different postings of, I'm in a new relationship or got a great puppy or all those pictures from spring break right then. It's real easy, but we need to cut it out. For us looking at ourselves and trying to compare what we think is our ordinary lives to somebody else's highlight reel. All of these are things that we can do to focus on what we have. Let me give you the next cure. This may take you on a trip to the ICU. What I mean is the intensive care of uplifting people. Folks, I want you to fiercely protect your inner circle, that group of people that you let in. Hey, listen, our moms were right. We are who we hang around with. I want you to make sure anybody you let in to influence you is uplifting, encouraging, motivating to you. Some of us might have a little spring cleaning to do with this inner circle. The third one is so important. Each of us needs to stand on our own story. Own that. Know what it is we are put on this earth to do and own it. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I don't know what that is yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. So let me give you a little guideline, a roadmap that the Japanese use. It's actually called Ikigai. And so what it is it's a convergence of 4 important components, things each of us have to discover about ourselves that we want to figure out. So let me tell you what those are. The first thing is, what do you love? I mean, what makes your heart sing? What do you absolutely love? Then the next component is, what are you good at? What are your talents, natural or skills that are built? What are you good at? The third component is, what's the world need out there? And then what would the world value so much they would pay for it? So all 4 of those components converging together should be your sweet spot. It's your Ikigai, and you know what that stands for? It stands for reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's that wonderful place, that purpose that each of us need to find in ourselves. Finding that purpose can fuel you to completely cure yourself of comparisonitis. Well, I think it's time to shake off the shackles of comparisonitis, don't you? Are you with me on that? To be able to be free of it after a lifetime of suffering from it. I really do feel free. I think it's time to stop caring what other people are doing and stand on our own. Know that we have what it takes to be able to achieve what we want. And to recognize that the way to make sure this stays in a lasting remission is to love ourselves and to love what we do. So I'm on a mission right now, truly, both personally and professionally, to help people love what they do and who they are. It makes all the difference in the world. The goal is to really find that sweet spot, that ikigai, that purpose, that lane, and drive the heck out of it. That way, you absolutely can stand in the beautiful light and the joy of just being you. Thanks.